Before people call me out and tell me how shonen anime is the most popular and accessible genre in the medium and that I'm talking out of my kitsu, I want you to hear me out first. What shows come to your mind when I use the word shonen? The big three, maybe their grandfather Dragon Ball, or their cocky siblings Hunter x Hunter and Full Metal Alchemist, or the popular new kids in school, My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen and Kimetsu no Yaiba. Shonen has been synonymous with the action genre ever since it got popular internationally. Adventurous anime with worlds of epic proportions, with young, optimistic, and often ambitious main characters, with inspiring messages about friendship and never giving up. But is that all shonen has to offer? And more importantly, what even is shonen? This show is dark and gory, so it has to be seinen, right? This anime, on the other hand, is quite simple and idealistic, so this one is definitely shonen. Meanwhile, this anime has a cast of female characters in a slice of life setting, so this one is undoubtedly shoujo. Jose, what even is that? I see these kinds of misinterpretations all the time. What we need to understand is shonen is not a genre, it's a demographic. It simply tells us the intended audiences of their respective manga. Shonen are technically intended for younger boys of age 8 to 14, but that doesn't necessarily mean the series in question won't have good writing. Manga is a very competitive medium, and only great stories, or ones that highly appeal to that demographic, end up being published in magazines. Thus, the quality of stories don't usually get too juvenile or repetitive. What I'm trying to say here is that demographic doesn't really matter in a story other than a few recurring themes and character tropes. This is true for all four of the main manga demographics. Demographic, or in this case, shonen, is purely a marketing strategy to get specific people into a particular series, and it does not reflect upon its quality. Popular mainstream shonen we see are all simply shonen under either the action genre or the adventure genre or both. Shonen is sprawling with so much more series with a wide variety of genres, settings, and characters, but they either get thrown under the bus or aren't viewed as shonen, as they aren't what people expect shonen to be. Shoujo is a victim of this occurrence the most. It's viewed as just girly romance when it's a lot more than that. That's a topic for another video, but I want people to keep in mind the fact that it's not just shonen that has this weird predicament that surrounds it. But what are these series I keep talking about that's so different from regular popular shonen? There are so many of them, and it's impossible to talk about each and every one of them. To keep this video short, I will showcase works that I personally love and works that are so influential that it would be a crime to not mention them. For example, did you know that Berserk, arguably the most popular, acclaimed and iconic seinen of all time, was directly influenced by a shonen? Devilman was a series that is as gory and grotesque as some of the most violent seinen works out there. It's a work that depicts themes of war that are personified by demons and humans themselves, where we see humans at their worst. It's a piece of fiction that keeps getting more relevant as time goes on. Devilman has become fairly popular recently with its 2018 adaptation Devilman Crybaby, but people are hardly aware that it is a shonen because of its violence and nudity. It's a series that influenced works across every medium from Berserk to Evangelion to Parasite. Devilman Crybaby is a modernized adaptation of the series that isn't quite as good as the manga, and I highly suggest you check the manga out. Even shows like Attack on Titan and Death Note, despite their popularity and acclaim, aren't viewed as shonen either. Because of their grimdark setting, gore, violence, and perspectives, people do make this claim that they are not shonen, or they are promoted as shonen that are not like the other shonen. I cringe every time I see these kinds of arguments. They are just great stories that happen to be shonen. Embrace them as shonen and throw away this inferiority complex you have about shonen being immature and not being able to present stories and messages in different interesting ways. How about Arya? A show about ordinary people living their ordinary lives in an extraordinary science fiction world called Aqua. It's a beautiful show following a cast of female characters as they work as tour guides in this gorgeous looking world. Directed by Junichi Sato, it continues to be one of the best directed TV anime of all time. A show with one of the most nuanced world building you would find in any media. In a medium where science fiction shows usually present grimdark worlds that are broken up by war, Arya makes itself stand out as a masterpiece that presents futuristic worlds in an optimistic yet realistic and mature way. It embodies the heart of this video perfectly. It's a shonen by definition and even uses some of its character tropes, but at the same time, it's the furthest thing away from what people consider to be shonen. Or how about Ashita no Jo, the most influential sports anime ever made? A story about a 15-year-old orphan boy finding his passion in life through boxing. We follow his entire life journey as a professional boxing player. It tackles multiple themes about talent, passion, poverty, and addiction in interesting ways with a complete absence of the shonen tropes that we are so used to seeing. Yet it is a pioneer of shonen. Speaking of Ashita no Jo, there is an entire genre in shonen that are treated as a completely different entity to it, the sports anime genre. A genre in shonen that fully covers every great trope in the demographic yet diverges into a direction that is more grounded in reality, pushes us to love different sports, makes us care about the people playing these sports while being extremely entertaining stories. There are a bunch of great sports anime out there, and coincidentally, I had created an entire video talking about it recently, and I highly recommend checking that one out if you want to see some great sports anime recommendations, and I'd rather not repeat the entire video here. Even among battle shonen, there are a lot of great works that are underwatched and underread. Shows like Magi, D. Greyman, World Trigger, Mob Psycho 100, Black Butler, Pandora Hearts, Kekkai Sensen, Trigun, Rurouni Kenshin are all great anime and manga experiences that could end up being anyone's favorites, but they aren't as popular as mainstream shonen and are interestingly not considered to be shonen among casual discussions and are simply understood as anime tagged under the specific genres like slice of life series like Yotsubato and Barakamon, shows that remind you of the joys and wonders of life and even makes you want to raise a child for yourself. Bizarre comedy series like Assassination Classroom and Great Teacher Onizuka that uses great comedy as a bridge to tell interesting messages. Smart psychological shows like Beastars that uses its anthropomorphic setting to talk in depth about human nature. Or the more violent natured classic shonen like Fist of the North Star and Baki. Competitive career shows like Bakuman, which also gives us a look into the hardships of being a mangaka, even if it is a bit idealistic in its approach. For every 20 or so bad shonen, there would almost always be a good one. And unlike popular belief, there are so many shonen out there, and many of them are excellent series to experience. Shonen comes in all shapes and sizes. It's a limitless demographic of anime and manga behind the surface. What ends up being popular is just the small tip of the iceberg, and once you start looking for more underappreciated shows, you would get to know how vast the demographic truly is. That isn't to say that popular shonen are bad. One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Attack on Titan before its ending are all high favorites of mine. But if you look at popular shonen, they are hardly underrated. They are the most popular and loved shows in the medium. If you broaden your view though and look at popular battle shonen being a small part of a large collection of different series, I would definitely say it's misunderstood and underrated. People call shonen juvenile simple stories that you grow out of, But this is in fact not true, and Shonen has so much value to offer to the medium. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to it. It helps a lot for a new channel like mine. I'll see you guys next time.